So Nintendo fans are extremely excited about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Boo! It's a ripoff! Wait, what? Really? Yeah, really? Like, you're not joking, seriously. Dude, I'm dead serious, man. What a ripoff. You're mad. You're mad about Skyward Sword HD. Yeah, I'm pissed, man. Like, what the heck? It's a 10-year-old game and it's gonna cost us $10 more? What is that? Well, what about inflation? I mean, 10 years, inflation accounts for probably at least 16% of a price increase. What about inflation? So what? Why? Because the game's 10 years old and they're trying to charge us all this extra money for an HD port. It's just a port. It's not even a remaster because, they didn't even redo all the textures and all that. Overall, by definition, it's still a remaster, and it's not just a direct port. So it's overpriced and it's just a port. Yeah, of course, man. Okay, but what about the fact that the visuals overall got a pretty good enhancement, pretty good bump up? Pretty good bump up. It should have been like 4K, man. Like, come on, get with the times, Nintendo. So basically, because it's not up to your standards of what a remaster should be, then therefore it's just a port and it's not a remaster and not worth the money? Exactly. Okay, but what about the fact that they had to actually make the motion controls work with the Joy-Cons, and the fact that they've even added some button controls, which is a whole new control scheme in Skyward Sword HD? Who cares, man? Fans have already done that on emulators. Like, bro, is it really that difficult? And on top of all that, they've increased the frame rate from 30 FPS to 60 FPS. Frame rate. I could do that in my sleep. I mean, come on, man. Have you seen comparisons between the Wii and the Switch versions? Like, it's definitely an HD remaster. No, bro, it's definitely like a port, man. Like all those NES and Super NES games on the Nintendo Switch, it's just like that. Like it's just a port. It's a 1-for-1, bro. So your opinion dictates whether it's good enough or not. That's what you're saying. And everybody should listen to my opinion on this because I'm right. You know what I mean? Like, my opinion as an individual should be deemed as superior to your opinion, okay? Because I say it's overpriced. So you should be agreeing with me and not feeding into this and not giving Nintendo your money because I think it's overpriced. Vote with your wallet! Okay, one last question. Are you still gonna buy the game? Of course I'm gonna buy the game. Skyward Sword for the win! Wow, okay, I guess you just can't win with some people. So in all seriousness, I do want to talk about this topic in this video because surprisingly, since Skyward Sword HD got announced, there's a lot of arguing amongst fans whether it's worth the price. Some people are saying it's overpriced, just different things like that. So I do want to talk about that in this video. One of the biggest arguments is that the game is like 10 years old and it's costing us $10 more, which, by the way, here's the original game right here. And this is the one, I gotta show you guys this real quick. This is the one that has the 25th orchestra CD with it, and then of course the artwork on the disc is just so nice, man. There's just such great art in this game. I'm really excited to play it again on the Switch. But anyway, so the point is, people are saying that well, this game is 10 years old. Came out in 2011, and it's costing us $10 more on the Switch. And one of the biggest sub-arguments and sub-topics, I guess, to that is that, some people are saying it's a port, other people are saying it's a remaster. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's start with the fact that it's 10 years old and it costs $10 more. Now, inflation is a real thing. Inflation does, it does come into account in this. And you do have to consider inflation. So, going off US dollar, because I'm in Canada, so we're going to base things off the US, since most people are probably from the US anyways. Based off the US dollar, there's about a 16% inflation increase over the last 10 years, give or take. You can go find all these different rates for yourself. And if you're going to apply about 16% to $50, it'd be around $8 to $10. So it does account for the difference over the span of 10 years. I'll give you one further example. If you had $1,000 in your bank account at the beginning of the year, and then you still had $1,000 at the end of your bank account, you'd still technically have $1,000, but that $1,000 would probably be worth $10 or $20 less than it was. The value of your $1,000 is not the same as it was at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, it might only be worth like $990 or something, right? Because that's kind of how inflation works. That's just giving you guys an example, right? So the value of your dollar does change, especially if you're in Canada. My goodness, has it ever changed? Unfortunate for us. But so that does come into play, right? Now, the other thing to take into consideration is what has been changed, what has been improved, what is different about this game than the other game, because there are differences. Of course, there's differences, whether you find that they're drastic or they're justified or whatever. There are differences, you know, whether, again, you know, whether it's on the smaller side of the spectrum or the larger side. Let's talk about a couple things. So obviously we do have sharper resolutions. Sharper resolution in and of itself maybe doesn't dictate whether it's a port or remaster. Obviously that in and of itself doesn't. You know, I mean, we've seen, like, for example, with Super Mario 3D All-Stars, right? Super Mario Sunshine and 64 and Galaxy. Nothing really changed a whole lot except that the resolution got bumped up. For the most part, you know, other things didn't, they kind of remained the same for the most part, and whatnot. So it was just kind of like a resolution increase. In the case of, you know, Super Mario Sunshine, you know, it was also 16:9. Obviously, Super Mario 64, they didn't give it that kind of, you know, widescreen treatment, if you will. So that's one thing to take into consideration. Now, judging by some comparison videos, I'll link actually a specific one in the description below. If you guys should definitely check that out, because it's a great comparison that someone did between the Wii version and the Switch version based on the trailer. But based on this comparison, you can tell that there's crisper edges as well. Now, you may say, well, that's just because of the resolution upgrade, which may be the case for the most part, but I would beg to differ that, you know, there probably is, Nintendo probably did go and smoothen out some edges as well, you know, to actually, you know, make it look a lot smoother with the resolution upgrade. It's kind of like a hand-in-hand kind of thing, right? Not just a resolution upgrade, but again, smoothing out some edges and things like that. The textures themselves seems like they may have only, you know, minorly kind of changed. You know, the textures haven't been completely redone. You look at a game like, for example, Spyro, the Spyro trilogy, right? And obviously the textures were completely redone. You know, but that's the other thing to take into consideration, right? There are different spectrums to a remaster, and you know, and there is technically a definition of what a port is and what a remaster is, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But the colors also, in my opinion, judging from this comparison video, seem more rich. Maybe not drastically, but in my opinion, it's noticeable. Deeper colors, richer colors, just more vibrant overall. The shadows and lighting have definitely been reworked and improved. Again, it may not be like, you know, a huge difference, but there's definitely been some improvements and some differences. You can tell in a lot of different scenes, just the way the shadows and the lighting kind of are. There has been differences. Again, is it like night and day? Is it like extreme? No, but there are improvements that do make the game look a little bit better, and you know, just overall add to the quality of the I guess the image, for lack of a better word. So again, shadows and lighting. Of course, we have a frame rate bump from 30 FPS to 60 FPS. You know, the original game on the Wii being only 30, we're actually getting it in a buttery smooth 60, which looks super good. So that's a huge thing. And then there's some changes that I feel like are more obvious in this one specific scene that, again, you can see in the comparison video that I'll link down below, specifically at the 1 minute 27 mark. 1 minute 27 seconds, and that's when Fee, I call her Fee, some people say Fi, I don't know, whatever, I say Fee, F-I, when Fee's dancing on the water, right? The water, in my opinion, looks drastically different. Not just like, oh, we got a resolution upgrade, like it actually looks like it's been reworked. You know, the coloration of the water is different, just the way the water kind of shimmers looks different, the way that just, I guess I don't want to say like the textures of the water. I'm not sure the other word I'm looking for. Maybe the textures of the water. But the point is, the water overall looks different. Like they've changed it, right? And I think this in particular, this scene in particular, showcases that they have made some differences, that is not just simply a resolution upgrade, for example. By the way, the richer colors I was also mentioning, you can also see in this scene where on the Wii version, and then on the Switch version, the purple in Fee's kind of like dress or whatever is a lot deeper and a lot more rich. So that's another thing you can kind of note in there. So there have been differences, definitely. And I think that one scene in particular is kind of like the selling point, in my opinion, that you know, really dictates whether it's just a port or a remaster. Now, what is a port and what is a remaster? Well, technically a port, ports are relatively simple, right? There's not really much difference to it. They're basically a re-release of a game to a new platform, whether it's an additional platform. For example, you know, maybe a game originally came out on console and now it's coming to PC, or vice versa. Or, you know, for example, Fall Guys, we know, is coming to you know, Nintendo Switch and to Xbox this summer, which it was originally not on those consoles. So those are ports, right? We have the NES and the Super NES games on Nintendo Switch Online. Those would be technically ports. You know, there are different kinds of ports, like Super Mario 3D World, for example. For the most part, hasn't been changed too much. We have additional content, but that's not a remaster. That's just additional content. So, you know, in that sense, it's a port from the Wii U game. Pokken Tournament Deluxe got ported. New Super Mario Bros. U got ported. Of course, the you know, different games like that have been ported over from the Wii U over to the Switch, and so those are more kind of direct ports that they have had. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is another one. They've given kind of like bonus content as incentives to repurchase said port, but it wasn't really fully remastered. Now, I know some people are going to argue, well, Super Mario 3D World had some tweaks done. Yes, they've tweaked some minor things, but not enough to dictate, you know, it being a remaster versus a port. And I think the differences in Super Mario 3D World compared to the differences in Skyward Sword HD are drastically different, where Super Mario 3D World would still fit under the category of a port, and Skyward Sword HD would fit under the category of a remaster, because a remaster usually involves enhancing the quality of the original master version of the game, right? So you're remastering it. For example, if you were to take a song, right, music, and you were to remaster it, you're enhancing the quality. You're taking the original, but you're enhancing it. You're not remixing it, right? Remixing it in the terms of video games would be a remake. Like, again, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a great example of that. You're not remaking it, you're remastering it. You're taking it and you're enhancing the visuals, and that's not the case in a lot of games, right? So in, like, for example, like Super Mario 3D World, New Super Mario Bros. U, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, those are ports because they have not really been enhanced more than that. There's been some tweaks. Tweaks are different than enhancements, right? I'll give you guys another example, right? We have Twilight Princess HD, for example, right? There had been significant changes in that game, right? It definitely looks a lot better than it did on the GameCube and the Wii. 100% it does. It looks way better. It looks smoother. It looks more crisp. Did they rework every single texture? No, but it would still be considered a remaster technically. They've also tweaked certain mechanics in the game. For example, you have to collect less tears, spirit tears, in those earlier sections of the game. You know, hopefully they do something similar to the Silent Realm in Skyward Sword HD. But anyways, that's kind of a different topic. So there has been changes. Of course, Skyward Sword HD is also going to support Amiibo. So if you take all these things into consideration, I would say that, you know, by definition, it's definitely a remaster. It's not a port. If it was a port, it would be pretty much the same game, except, you know, maybe it would have a little bit of a sharper resolution. But there are actual significant changes in some areas. Like I said, that specific scene with Feed, when you see the water, and other changes, maybe they're not as drastic, but you know, there are still enough changes to classify it as a remaster and not just a simple port. Then, of course, you know, you got to take into consideration that they're also adding a new control scheme, right? Not only can you play with motion controls with the Joy-Cons without a motion sensor, which obviously you needed a motion sensor on the Wii, you can also play with buttons now. They're making that a possibility. Now, some people have argued that, well, okay, you know, again, people who have created, you know, emulation versions of this game have also done that, but I would just say that, okay, well, these people have some level of skill, whether it takes a lot of effort or not, that doesn't matter. We're first of all, we're talking about whether this is a port or remaster. I think hopefully most can agree that it is a remaster. You guys can let me know in the comments section below if you agree that it's a remaster, or if you think it's just a port, and, you know, tell me why you think that. But I think for the most part, you know, if you're going based off of the criteria and the definition and the differences between a remaster and a port, I mean, again, remastering involves enhancing the quality. The quality has been enhanced. Has it been enhanced enough to satisfy certain people? No, maybe not, right? Maybe some people would have loved to see it in 4K, even though the Switch is not capable of 4K, for example, or they would have loved to see, you know, all of the textures reworked, like, you know, in parts that there's grass, maybe they wanted to see actual blades of grass rather than just kind of like a flat texture, you know, so maybe it's not up to your standard of enhancements, but the fact is, whether it's to your satisfaction or not, it still fits the category of being a remaster technically. So all in all, if you take all these things into consideration, you know, the fact that the visuals are better, sharper resolution, crisper edges, you know, smoother edges, richer colors, shadows and lighting have clearly been reworked. There have been certain things that have been reworked, you know, even more significantly, like I said, the water in that one scene, for example. Frame rate bump from 30 FPS to 60 FPS. Of course, we're going to have amiibo functionality, whatever that entails, we don't fully know. You know, even quality of life improvements that we may have. Like I said, for example, in Twilight Princess HD, you know, changing that you didn't need as many tiers to collect in those earlier sections of Twilight Princess HD. Maybe they're going to do something, you know, similar, you know, again, quality of life improvements in Skyward Sword HD that we don't know about yet. I'm sure they'll talk about it a little bit more as we approach the release date, which is still a few months away, you know, all the way in July. So all in all, I think if you take all this into consideration with the fact of inflation being a real thing, the value of the dollar changing over the course of the past 10 years, personally, I would say that it is generally worth the money, right? And Nintendo knows their worth. Now, is it necessarily worth it to specific individuals? Maybe not. That's up for you to determine, right? There are certain games that have been deemed masterpieces that other people didn't like, right? So that's also, you know, something to take into consideration. There is subjective and personal view and opinion, but I'm saying from a general market standpoint, you know, it is worth the value because there is a desire for the product and people are willing to pay for the product. Even a lot of people that are not happy with the price of the product will still pay that price. But again, I think if you take all these things into account, I wouldn't call it overpriced, and it's a very long game as well. So, you know, not everybody necessarily played it on the Wii back in the day. This is maybe a lot of people's first time, and you know, if you were to go play the original version on the Wii versus the version on the Switch, the Switch is probably going to be a much more pleasurable experience, right? Especially with if you are going to play with the motion controls are probably going to be way smoother with the Joy-Cons. And if you don't want to use motion controls, you can use buttons instead. And like I said, it just overall looks a lot better. You know, whether it's as enhanced as you would like or not, maybe you wanted it to be enhanced a little bit more. But either way, there are enhancements that I still think make it again a better game and overall, you know, more quality of life in the game sense, right? Not real life, but anyways, in the game sense. So I don't know, let me know if you agree with me. If you disagree with me, I just wanted to kind of rant about that in this video. You know, at the end of the day, what you do with your money is up to you, but I personally think that, you know, there is value in the asking price, you know, whether it's, you know, again, as much change as some people would have hoped for or not, I think it's still enough of an upgrade and enough of an enhancement to, first of all, call it a remaster, you know, even if it's on the kind of like the lower spectrum of a remaster. And of course, you know, just that it's probably going to play a lot better on the Switch than it did on the Wii. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. We're going to play it here on the channel either way, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. It doesn't matter. Like I said, we all get to enjoy what we enjoy in the gaming world. You know, I may love one game, you may not like it, and vice versa, you know. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, man. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Whenever the game comes out, like I said, we're going to play it here on the channel on the Switch. I'm really excited about it. If you missed my reaction, go check that out. I screamed very, very hard. Don't worry, I put a compressor on it so your ears won't just shatter into the next dimension. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys soon. Stay safe, stay well, and until then, game on.